anyway, let's take a look here at what Krystal Ball said in response. So she says, when you insist on spreading neo-Nazi fueled smears about immigrants leading to bomb threats, it kind of closes the space for this intellectual discussion about pluses and minuses of immigration that you're now retreating to, dude. And she's totally right. Like in these long tweets from JD Vance, there's a reason he's not actually talking about the dog stuff or the cat stuff. He's trying to make an intellectual case for why actually he's right and why his politics are the correct politics. But 100%, Krystal's right. He's already given away the game. Him and Trump have already given away the game. You can't have an intellectual humanist conversation about the pluses and minuses of immigration if you've already started the conversation with a massive fake news bomb, a racist, disgusting lie. Take your Ivy League elitist venture capitalist ass back to the 4chan message board or Peter Thiel's dick where you belong. The lie you spread about Haitians is literally from a group, Blood Tribe, which is true.
My man, 50 grand, Kyle Kulinski, coming out here to smoke JD Vance. I love it. I love it when Kyle gets a little riled up. We don't get to see this side of my man Kyle, but you can't take a shot at somebody's wife and expect to not get a dog piled back on Twitter. And I love it. Take your Ivy League elitist venture capitalist ass back to the 4chan message board. Chef's kiss, Kyle.
Absolutely. So with all that said, let's take a look at some of the JD Vance tweets that started this whole debacle, which led to his back and forth, or rather his calling out of Krystal. So yeah, let's just take a look at this man's disgusting Twitter feed, guys. Just absolutely disgusting, filled with lies, filled with racism, exactly as you would expect. No maturity, no nuance, no coming to terms with the fact that the dog story was in fact fake. But instead we get this. Here's his latest tweet. We haven't even gotten to the more relevant ones, but Kamala Harris dropped 20,000 Haitian migrants into a small Ohio town, and chaos has ensued. So first of all, once again, I want to remind everyone, these are legal immigrants. This is what the Republican Party has been saying is the way it's supposed to be done. As long as they're not, running across the border or whatever, like they have to go through the process. Well, these people actually did. And guess what also is the case? JD Vance says Kamala Harris dropped 20,000 Haitian migrants in an Ohio small town. Well, I did one Google search, guys. When did the Haitian migrants start coming to Springfield, Ohio? Around 2018. Who was president in 2018, Zach?
I can't remember. It's really inconvenient a lot of the time when anybody brings up policy from 2016 to 2020. Oh, wait, it was Donald Trump, the man who lost the next election and is about to lose another one. Yeah, it's crazy. They're giving away the game. That's what I hate about Republicans. Like, people will be like, at least the Republican Party's honest. No, they're not. They say they like legal immigration. They say that what they do is they hate anybody who's not white. The Republican Party is a deeply white nationalist party. And I'm not saying that everybody who votes Republican is white nationalist, but the people who are in charge, that's who they're preaching to, right? Nope. There's nothing wrong with people immigrating to this country legally. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if you want to make like a pogrom after them, send all these crazy white people.
Because that's the only possible way they can win this election. If they scare enough stupid white people into believing that your town's going to be next. Kamala Harris is going to drop off 30 million Haitians in your town. When again, it was Donald Trump. That was under Donald Trump when this happened. Donald Trump is now saying, when I'm president, we're going to do mass deportations. Well, if you care so much about this, then how come 20,000 Haitian immigrants were dropped off, as JD Vance says, in Ohio under your watch? Again, I think that's probably one of the best things Trump did. Good. I'm glad that, I'm glad he was so pro-immigration. I am too, Donald Trump. But now you're the one pretending like things are going to be different if you get reelected, and your vice president's out here spreading this insanely disgusting and dangerous rhetoric. We've talked about the actual, consequences of this.
Children had to be pulled out of schools, guys. Imagine having that conversation with your child. You're a parent, and you have to be like, I know you already feel different because you're part of the Haitian community, right? And you're not just a regular kid. Is how it probably feels, right? You move to America, you don't speak the language, you speak Creole, everybody speaks English, you're trying your best. Kids make fun of you, they're all racist. And now you have to worry that you're going to get shot and killed when you go to school. Imagine that. Targeted, shot and killed. It's already traumatic enough that we're talking about how school shootings actually happen on the daily in this country. No, hunting you down and killing you like prey. Imagine having that conversation with your 9-year-old kid.
Yep.
What's that going to do for their self-esteem? How's that going to make them feel? Imagine having that conversation with your child.
Yep. And even if you think the bomb threat was just called in by a liberal that wanted to make the right wing look bad, well, guess what? There's literal battalions of neo-Nazis walking down the streets in Springfield. There's literal neo-Nazi literature being distributed to residents in Springfield. Either way, let's take a look at some more of these crazy tweets from JD Vance before we even get into the crystal ball response. This one is really crazy. Even JD's own audience on Twitter seem to be calling this lie out. Kamala Harris and her media apparatus should be ashamed of themselves. Another debunked story that turned out to have merit. So, all right, are you guys ready to see the merit? It turns out we were wrong, Zach. There was actual merit to Trump's allegation that Haitians are eating the dogs. Let's take a look from Christopher Rufo, a very valuable source, exclusive. We have discovered that migrants are, in fact, eating cats in Ohio, not Springfield. We have verified with multiple witnesses and visual cross references that African migrants in Dayton, the next city over from Springfield, barbecued these cats last summer. So not Springfield and not this summer, but last summer.
Also, those are not cats.
And
They're
also,
obviously not cats.
And also, as pretty much everyone in the replies points out, those aren't even cats. They're almost certainly just chickens. A lot of people pointed that out.
What's crazy is that Americans are so far removed from actual cuisine, from where our food comes from, that they expect that a chicken, when you get it, actually looks like it does when it comes out in the grocery store. And they don't understand that that's because all of the parts that Americans find unappetizing looking get cut off, thrown away, and put in a meat grinder. Whereas people from other countries where they might raise their chickens there, that person may have a chicken coop in their backyard. That's totally natural. Gavin and I live in Missouri. There are a bunch of trendy assholes that thought it was cute to put chicken coops in their backyard for about 5-year span here. Okay. You know what I'm saying? This isn't even, they were all kitschy white folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just because somebody has cats in their backyard while they're barbecuing chicken. This could even be duck. This could be goose. It could be something that people eat all over the world. And it's like, Felice and I were comparing it to like Bigfoot hunting. You know what I mean? It's like, question everything, bro. Does that look like big claw? Is that a Yeti? Bro,
and also,
found him.
Also, even if it's not chickens, let's say it is cats. Let's say this dude, this random ass dude, has 3 or 4 cats on his grill. Maybe he's crazy. Maybe he's mentally ill. You never know. Even if that was the case, that does not give JD Vance the excuse to say, oh, actually, the story is no longer debunked and now we have proven merit. No, that's not what that is. Having one video, a blurry video that might not even have been filmed in this country of a dude cooking cats, that's not proof of anything, bro. For one, not even a Haitian person. This guy just says African migrant. So
black.
Clearly not a Haitian person, and not doing any voodoo. No. And again, it's in Dayton last summer. This is ridiculous. This is self-parody. This is like that Joe Rogan thing where he was like, my wife's friend's sister said that, people in the high school were giving out.
Oh, he said elementary school where his friend's wife works,
where they were giving out litter boxes to children who identified as cats. This is the same energy, bro. Again, even if this video was of someone cooking, it's probably not. It's almost certainly just chicken or some other
way
poultry.
More views on TikTok if he was grilling grilling cats, guys.
But even if it was, like I said, that's not proof of anything. I bet you $1 million I could, go to like freaking some majority white state like Kentucky or West Virginia or something. And if I patrolled around long enough,
to say about my people,
that was the first place that came to mind. But I'm just saying, go to some poor area that's majority white. You're gonna find people doing crazy stuff. You don't think that some poor white guy in America has ever eaten a cat or a raccoon or a squirrel or something? Who cares, bro? People do that shit all the time. If you're poor, if you're desperate, if you're crazy, yeah, you're gonna find people doing that, whether they're white or black. And again, it's one thing for some loser like Christopher Rufo to post this evidence, this exclusive, some gotcha. It's a whole other thing for freaking JD Vance to repost this and as if it's some sort of proof that Donald Trump was actually, he was right on the money about the eating the dogs. Yeah, he was right on, guys. See, we have proof now.
But what's crazy is he'll post this and then this happens. I don't know if you already saw this clip, Gavin, but he basically admits that he made it all up.
The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I start talking about cat memes. If I have to,
But it
if
wasn't
I have
just a
to
meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the,
Wait,
so
what?
that the American media actually pays.
But it
if
wasn't
I have
just a
to
meme,
create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dan.
He just said, I'm going to lie. He said, if I have to create stories, then that's what I'm going to do, because we have no way to be victorious without absolute abject fatalism.
Yeah, yeah, and those people are Americans. They're just as Americans as your freaking wife's family, bro. Like, come on, this is crazy.
What are you, asshole?
Yeah, like it's wild. It's wild. And yes, I get it. Like, when there's a migrant influx into a community that's of a different culture, obviously, yeah, there's gonna be a culture clash at first. It might take a couple years for everyone to, totally get along and be cool. That's just the way humans are. We're tribalistic by nature. It's not that we can't talk about any of that, but guess what? That's the story of this freaking country. That's the story. You don't think culture clash? You don't think there was a culture clash when the freaking Mayflower came? You don't think there was a culture clash when freaking Christopher Columbus showed up?
Well,
Come
it was
on.
a different kind of a culture class. It was bring me gold or I'll cut off your damn
Oh
hands.
yeah, obviously that's what I'm
I'm
saying
gonna
though.
rape
Like,
all your women.
yeah, the entire story of America, this romantic notion that we're preached about in freaking public school and stuff. Yeah, it's all about a culture clash. I mean, that's the euphemisms they use. Obviously, we know it's based on genocide. Yeah, but come on, man, that's America. What about when the Irish came or when the Italians came? The only difference is that these people are black. That's the only difference. We all know that. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely insane. But the plot thickens, everyone. The plot thickens. Do you want to get into the crystal ball segment of the story?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess it actually starts with Zed Jelani.
I guess, yeah. If we'll keep it in the TL.
Yeah. Let me throw this up. Do you want to summarize this exchange between Zed and Vance before we get to
Sure,
Krystal's
absolutely.
response?
Let's go ahead and show the screed that JD Vance posted. Again, I was just bemoaning the other day about how Twitter, you can post way too much if you have a blue check mark, that it basically makes Twitter so unaesthetic now.
Yeah.
It's like clunky and way worse to use. Anyway, he goes on this screed about how housing costs are skyrocketing, communicable diseases are on the rise.
This is a bunch of Nazi shit.
Yeah. Car accidents, crime, blah, 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 which is crazy because he was president during COVID when crime went through the fucking moon.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about that because it's inconvenient for them.
And also, it's like, if these are sorry to cut you off, but if these are your real concerns, like, I don't know, why didn't Trump talk about any of that on the debate stage? How come he went for their eating the dogs? Like,
yeah, obviously.
you're trying to be so intellectual now when your running mate already gave away the game.
Yeah, and that's what's not going to work about this campaign, has never worked about this campaign, that you can't appeal to the intellectual and say they're eating dogs in Ohio, they're eating the pets, that you can't just say I'm going to make up lies to the American people and then come back and be like, oh yeah, I'm the intellectual, I'm the smart guy, I'm the Yale lawyer. You know what I mean? I don't know. So he blames it all on racism and chalks it up to like, you have to vote Donald Trump in 2024 now, right? And Zed Jelani comes in with absolute bangers. And you guys know, we call balls and strikes on this channel. I roasted the fuck out of Zed Jelani on Twitter maybe a month and a half ago because he was coming after Mehdi Hassan and Tim Walz and all that shit. I was like, oh, this is bullshit. But I love it when Zed Jelani uses his skills for good and not evil. And it's been a while since I found myself on the same page as Zed, but he absolutely rips Vance a new one. He goes on an absolute tirade, brings up his wife, obviously. I believe Zed Jelani might also be of like Indian descent, like JD Vance's wife, so I think it might like hit a little closer to home for him that she's married to this guy, and because he brings it up a lot. He talks about how like one of the things that was really moving to me actually that I read in Zed Jelani's line of tweets here was he talks about how in Hillbilly Elegy, JD Vance writes about how when he became a member of Usha's family, it was such a relief, it was of such comfort to him because he was finally around a group of people that took care of each other, that loved each other, that were tight-knit. And now he's going to go and turn around and, dehumanize this immigrant population that he, said welcomed him and loved him and supported him. Like it makes my skin fucking crawl, guys, because I'll tell you what, it's a little like, I don't want to get into my personal life too much. Guess what? My girlfriend, my partner, her family were both immigrants too, right? And I know exactly what JD's fucking talking about, dude. Their family is so different than mine. Okay, they're so much closer. They fucking they spend a lot more time with one another, and it's not anything else. It's like a big cultural difference, right? It's different than, a lot of the way, like her family's huge. They see like 15, 20 cousins when they get together. It's just a completely different lifestyle. Like I haven't seen any of my cousins. I mean, I see one of my cousins, right? And I have like 8, you know what I mean? So it's just like a different kind of world. It would be anathema to them. It'd be unfathomable to them to like not hang out, not see each other, not be a part of their families. And that's so different. And what the Republican Party constantly tries to sell people on is that they're the party of families, that they're the party of traditional values, that they're the party of, taking care of one another and hard work and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. Dude, you should be kissing the immigrant population's ass if you're the Republican Party, because those are the people who would be most likely to vote for you on that line of shit. Because guess what? Immigrants that come to this country, they don't want to handout. They're all hardworking as shit.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. And so you're making a monster out of nothing. And everybody knows it. Every working person who's not a racist scumbag dirtbag, okay, they know when they go out to their regular ass jobs, dude, I've worked with dudes that were fucking immigrants all the time, okay? And you always know that there's a different kind of fury in their eyes. Like, they're like, I need this fucking job. I'm going to work hard. Do not fuck with me. No, I'm not fucking around right now. Like, I have to take care of my kids. I've got a family. You know what I mean? They're trying to build a better life for people. That's what the Republican Party claims to want. That's what they say they celebrate. And then they come here and tear them down because of the color of their skin. What is this, 1945? What the fuck?
Yep. I totally agree. And Zed's response was on point. He says Springfield was declining for years until they saw an increase in jobs and growth driven by people moving in. That means more wealth, healthier budgets, etc. And there's no upsides to immigration in your view. What about Usha's parents? Should they have stayed in India? So he's echoing a lot of what I was talking about as far as Springfield and how these immigrants have like objectively uplifted this community economically. Again, even from a right-wing perspective, religiously, the congregations at Christian churches have expanded and exploded. There's a lot more enthusiasm around church going because of again, this is not my metrics of a successful community member. It's their metrics. That's why I'm referencing it. Either way, JD Vance responds with, again, quite a screed. It's so funny because you know that JD Vance knows Zed is right. He knows exactly what you just mentioned. He's talked about openly his experience integrating into an Indian family and how awesome that was and how kind they are and all that stuff. So, he has to now try to like intellectualize his bigotry and put it in this long-winded screed. He says, and then we're not going to read all of this, but it's, dude, I've always liked you. So maybe this should be a longer conversation, but come on. Are there no upsides to immigration is a radically different question from, should we drop 20,000 people from a radically different culture in a small Ohio town in a matter of a few years?
It's like Red Dawn, they all come out of an airplane, right? And they've got the backpacks that when you run out of the plane, it just automatically pulls your parachute like they're the USS Airborne, and 20,000 of them descend and it looks like insects are coming down, right? And you're just like, what's going on? Is it the rapture? No, it's 20,000 black people. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're all coming down from the skies with wings on.
They're gonna get you. Like literally, this is the kind of shit that you would expect to read from literature in like 1855 when they're arguing that the South should have slaves.
Yeah,
like this is the kind of thinking that you have to have. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah,
then like we've seen recently quite a few times, he all of a sudden turns into a lefty, talking about how we need to improve how Medicaid is failing our citizens and stuff. Why don't you talk about that when it's not in the context of this fear-mongering anti-immigrant context? Why aren't you just talking about how we need to improve Medicaid for people, for recipients, regardless of whether or not they live in a town that's experiencing a migrant influx? Obviously, if you're running for president, yeah, you should work on improving Medicare. You should work on strengthening the social safety net if you actually give a shit about Americans. But right-wingers like JD Vance, they only really bring it up when, again, it's convenient to fearmonger about immigrants, when it's convenient to blame them and scapegoat them and say, actually, it's not the fault of, the government for failing to take care of you. It's actually the fault of the immigrants because they just took all of the help that we were going to give you. But then this guy, he kind of cut in line, and he took the last package. So now you're screwed. I mean, who believes that? Come on. We all know that the government has the power to uplift us via the social safety net. We all know that the government has the power to strengthen the social safety net. They can just do that. They can just make it better for everyone. There's not like just 5 pieces of pizza that everyone has to fight over.
Well, Gavin, can I ask you a question about history? I wonder if anybody comes to mind. Just shout them out when you're ready. Ran on a really, really robust and strong hyper-nationalism, talked a lot about creating better social safety nets and, convinced the entire population of Germany that it was because of the Jewish people that they couldn't have any of that shit, and that's why they were suffering after World War I. Deadass, this is Hitler's message. This is how you guys can be mad that it's inflammatory. This is exactly what the fuck Hitler ran on.
100%.
After World War I, which Germany, got blamed for, right? And then they were basically put all of the debts from World War I were put on Germany. It crippled their economy, right? And Hitler was like, no, the motherland will rise because we're going to kick out all of the immigrants. We're going to kick out all the Jews, right? And this is exactly what JD Vance is running on. It's absolutely crazy. And the real through line here is it's like, oh, we could have such a rich, robust social safety net if we lived in a white ethno state. But because of all these immigrants that keep coming here, that's why we can't have that. That's why you're poor. That's why your boss doesn't give you a raise. That's why your housing is expensive. That's why X, Y, and Z, things that immigrants have absolutely zero control over.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%. It's the classic Republican trick. And we see this election cycle after election cycle. I mean, remember in 2016 when it was the caravan of migrants heading for the border, now they're here and they're eating our dogs and cats and taking your Medicare and all this crap. So it's always the same shit. And again, these are legal immigrants. They're not illegal aliens. You know what I'm saying? Which obviously is a disgusting term, but that's what they use to discuss these human beings. Anyway, let's take a look here at what Krystal Ball said in response. So she says, when you insist on spreading neo-Nazi fueled smears about immigrants leading to bomb threats, it kind of closes the space for this intellectual discussion about pluses and minuses of immigration that you're now retreating to, dude. And she's totally right. Like in these long tweets from JD Vance, there's a reason he's not actually talking about the dog stuff or the cat stuff. He's trying to make an intellectual case for why actually he's right and why his Nazi politics are the correct politics. But 100%, Krystal's right. He's already given away the game. Him and Trump have already given away the game. You can't have an intellectual humanist conversation about the pluses and minuses of immigration if you've already started the conversation with a massive fake news bomb, a racist, disgusting lie that removes any credibility you could have ever had at the table.
100%. And this is how you have to dismiss people like that. And I think Krystal kind of handles it wonderfully. She's like, treats him like an online loser, like a terminally online bro, because that's how he behaves, right? She calls him dude at the end, even though he's running for vice president of the United States under a major party ticket, right? Which I love. But it'll get under his skin a little bit. Like, she just has absolutely no respect for him. And he's clearly in his feelings because he responds to her. But he was just mauling on Twitter last night. It's great to see it. It's horrible for the Republican Party, and that's good for me. That's good for my heart.
Yeah. So here's his response. Krystal Ball, I really hate neoliberalism. I'm a populist. Also, Krystal Ball, anyone who doesn't think 20,000 cheap laborers should be dropped on a small Ohio town is a neo-Nazi.
Bro, this is so crazy because you want to be the intellectual, right? In that screed that you just had. And it's like, hey, man, why don't we raise the minimum wage? And then all of those people have to be compensated at a fair rate. And why don't we impose some, rent control so that when people do move to town, it doesn't make it impossible for the people who have already lived there and started their lives there and built that community and enriched it to afford to stay. Why don't we do those two things? Fucking genius.
Yep. And again, it's like, I'm pretty sure people that identify as populists, like being a populist isn't just being a Nazi.
Yeah.
You can be in favor of legal immigration as a populist. That's all that Krystal is advocating for. She's not even advocating for open borders or even the rights of illegal immigrants like Zach and I sometimes do. All she's saying is that it's a perfectly fine thing to have legal immigrants, which are uplifting a community economically and otherwise, community, religiously, in every sense. They're uplifting this community, but yes, economically as well.
Also, if you were a true populist, you wouldn't call them cheap laborers. You would talk about how they were an exploited part of the class. Okay, you fucking idiot. Like, this guy, it's so cheap and phony. You can just tell he probably regrets being Donald Trump's VP prick at this point himself. All he can do is go out there, throw junk, and humiliate himself. And so he realizes that instead of doing what Gavin forecast he would do, I think what he's done is he's embedded himself. Like, I think you were saying he could maybe keep the door open to write a book about being in the belly of the beast. It seems like he's gone the other direction, and he's decided that after this campaign's over, when he absolutely loses, that his only path will be to embed even further with this deranged right-wing cabal of white nationalists, of Christian fascists, you know what I mean? And just remove himself from the discourse of like the real world. Like he'll hook up with Josh Hawley and they'll start a PAC or something or a think tank, and that'll be the future for them.
Yeah. To me, what JD Vance does after this campaign is over, it depends on how Donald Trump treats him. Because I think like a lot of people, he's going to respond in a reactionary way to that treatment. And if it's bad, if he gets thrown under the bus by Donald Trump, like Mike Pence did, then yeah, I do think I still predict he abandons the MAGA movement and eventually probably even goes back to being like an enlightened centrist, an anti-Trump Republican or Democrat or whatever on MSNBC.
That's possible still?
I do. I think the news cycle moves fast. People have quick memories. I mean, John Bolton's a resistance lib. Dick Cheney's a resistance lib. I don't think it's that far of a stretch to say that in 5 years from now, JD Vance could go back to being like a enlightened centrist neoliberal type, like he was literally less than 5 years ago. But again, I think that depends on how Trump treats him. If Trump actually sets him up to be the next MAGA king, the next in line, then yeah, I think he would probably go down that road. But if Trump blames him for his loss in the event that Trump loses, which I think is going to happen, 100%. I think, yeah, he's going to blame JD Vance. All his supporters are going to blame JD Vance because we all know that Trump supporters blame everyone but Trump. The buck stops with everyone but Donald Trump. It's always, he picked the wrong people and the people led him astray, yada, yada. Well, that's JD Vance. They're just going to say, yep, unfortunately, he picked the wrong guy and JD Vance ruined the ticket. If he'd picked Doug Burgum or
I definitely think that's going to happen.
Oh, 100%. There's going to be no accountability on Donald Trump.
That's why I think that JD Vance is going to go with Nick Fuentes, and he's going to go with that really niche online.
Nick Fuentes hates JD Vance.
I thought he hated Donald Trump.
He hates Donald Trump partially because he picked JD Vance, someone with zero riz and with an Indian wife.
Oh, I forgot. That's why he hates JD Vance. Because I was like, everything he's saying seems to be like a perfect match for Nick Fuentes. Guys, this is why the Republican Party can't get anywhere this news cycle. They're like all fighting over who can be the most racist.
Yeah.
Even I can't keep up with it.
I know. It's unhinged. You're right, though. You would think that is the direction he's going in, but the real hardcores, they don't like JD Vance either. The Nick Fuentes and stuff, they think he's lame. They think they think he makes white people look like soft losers.
Yeah,
which he kind of does anyway. And of course they hate him for having an interracial family or whatever, which is hilariously ridiculous. They
considering his last name's fucking Fuentes, by the way.
I know, that's the stupid thing. It's like you're not even.
God.
Anyway, so yeah, he's like I said, getting in fights with political commentators. I said YouTubers at the beginning, but to be fair to Krystal, like I said, she's more than just a YouTuber. She is a political commentator. Her podcast Breaking Points exists across many platforms, not just YouTube. She was on MSNBC. Yeah, so still, I think it's it's a sign of desperation and weakness that JD Vance is focused on these sort of Twitter beefs on his timeline instead of actually like pushing the ball forward in a serious way with the Trump campaign. I mean, I don't know, dude. Don't you have anything better to do than be responding to critics on social media? I don't know. It seems a little bit weird.
Hanging out at the snack table, drinking a Diet Dew, looking at all the, sometimes they've got chips,
And it's one thing when Trump, because Trump obviously also used to be the king of Twitter, but he had a very specific style of posting. He wouldn't post like a politician. He would post like a shit poster. Like he would post like a normal person. He would post memes, stuff like that.
Trump's a true poster till the end.
Yeah. JD Vance, on the other hand, he's going about this in the wrong way. He's trying to take a too intellectual of an approach, this long-winded, like, let me write a freaking New York Times bestseller book about the subject and explain my treatise. Like, no one cares, bro. All they want to see is like Pepe memes and like racist shit. And they want to see like a meme that shows how black people's IQ is half of a white person's. Like, that's what they want from you. They don't want this giant book. They don't want this intellectualism. It's stupid.
Confirming their belief system already. It's about we're better. The immigrants are debasing us. If we would have this pristine, Garden of Eden society if it weren't for outsiders, right? This insulated culture, this, if it were only white evangelical fascists in this country, what a society we would make. The whole world would live in fear of us, whatever their fucking goals are.
Yep. But we do have another response, guys, from Kyle Kulinski, actually, obviously Krystal Ball's husband. So Kyle responds to this tweet of JD Vance's and says, Mr. I'm a populist. JD Vance dodged a question on raising the minimum wage, didn't support the PRO Act, and skipped a vote on extending the child tax credit while virtue signaling like he supports it. Yep, you're a fucking fraud. Take your Ivy League elitist venture capitalist ass back to the 4chan message board or Peter Thiel's dick where you belong. The lie you spread about Haitians is literally from a Nazi group, Blood Tribe, which is true.
My man, 50 grand, Kyle Kulinski, coming out here to smoke JD Vance. I love it. I love it when Kyle gets a little riled up. We don't get to see this side of my man Kyle, but you can't take a shot at somebody's wife and expect to not get a dog piled back on Twitter. 100%. And I love it. Take your Ivy League elitist venture capitalist ass back to the 4chan message board. Chef's kiss, Kyle. You got him. That was glorious.
Yep. Although again, the hilarious part is that he's not even particularly welcome on the 4chan message board for the reasons we just talked about with the Nick Fuentes crazy people, where nothing is ever racist enough. And it's just like a constant, it's kind of like the left-wing purity testers where like nothing is ever left-wing enough. It's kind of like that, but just for racism, where it's like, oh, nope, I thought you were pretty racist last time, but this time you're not quite racist enough. And, I think I'm going to abandon your campaign because of it. That's the 4chan Nick Fuentes sect of the internet. And also the funny thing about that was Trump, there's a theory that part of the reason why Trump started hanging out with Laura Loomer was to kind of win back the Groypers, right? Like, oh, I'm hanging out with one of you guys, one of these crazy people. Well, guess what? He forgot Laura Loomer's Jewish. So even all the Nick Fuentes people were like, not based. She's a Jew.
That's crazy, dude.
I know.
It's fucking nuts.
I know.
You can't follow the ins and outs of these people. They're being spoon-fed bigotry, hateful rhetoric that they want. But they're like, no, we don't really like the package that's coming in. Four instances back in generational family tree, it looks like you lied with a man from the Ashkenazi background. So unfortunately, you're disqualified from it's like the Freemasons or like, something like Trace. I don't know. Fucking crazy.
No, it's 100%. It's 100% true. And it's really because the Republican Party has nothing else at this point, guys. They have nothing else. They can't win on the actual issues of politics. When it comes to abortion, they can't even defend their own position on the subject matter. Donald Trump is having to run away from the overturning of Roe v. Wade. He can't even brag about the Supreme Court justices that he appointed, which otherwise would be the number one accomplishment that Republicans would brag about for all of time. But he can't even talk about it. He can't even have a position on abortion because the Republican Party position in its true form is so unpopular that if he even brings it up, he'll lose. All they can talk about, all they can discuss is disgusting, racist, fake news regarding immigrants, because that's all they have. Their only hope of winning this election is whipping enough poor, stupid, lead-poisoned white people into a frenzy, into a fury that motivates them to the ballot box to cast their vote for Donald Trump out of fear, again, that if they don't, 20 million Haitians are going to descend on their community and take their job. That's the level of discourse we're at right now. And again, there's a reason why Trump's not running a good campaign, because he can't actually fight on the issues. He can't actually debate when it comes to the merits of his issues. He can only fight on the battleground of fake news and racism.
That's all he's ever had, right? And I think, again, we've said this time and time again. It only worked because of how horrible the public perception of Hillary Clinton was. Correctly, horrible candidate. They had to rig the primary for her. They disenfranchised countless people. The people already saw Hillary as crooked, right? That's why the crooked Hillary thing landed. I mean, regardless of who you were in America, I feel like everybody had a bad taste in their mouth about Hillary Clinton. Even people who, like myself, plugged their nose and voted for her out of
except for like Madonna or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were cringy lips, but you know what I'm talking about. I feel like the actual working people, they had a fucking it. So Donald Trump was able to get away with being racist because he was also throwing mud at Hillary Clinton, and people liked that. He was also talking about NAFTA, doing a new NAFTA. He was talking about building the wall, which was racist as hell, but people thought that was going to be a good solution for raising the wage. He talked about bringing the jobs back. Right now, he doesn't want to talk about any of that because he knows he's not going to do any of that. He's been too lazy to develop a plan. Remember, he only has concepts of a plan. And also, as I always bring it back to, he doesn't have a Steve Bannon to put it in his ear and tell him exactly what to say. Because Steve Bannon always knew how to thread the needle from the Mike Pence base of the Republican Party to the Nick Fuentes base of the Republican Party. And he was like, here's how you speak to them all. He doesn't have that anymore. He didn't have that in 2020. He couldn't brag about his chief accomplishment in 2020 either, which was Operation Warp Speed and making sure that, the country was safe. He could have sent masks to everyone. If he wanted to, he could have stopped the shutdowns. He could have gone to fucking the mats about the shutdowns, but he didn't. All the shutdowns happened under Donald Trump, crippled them with his insane base. He was never able to get back the regular thinking population after how horribly he fumbled the pandemic, saying it was fake, saying it was the flu, all these kinds of things when people could see with their own eyes. People dying left and right, going to the hospital, not the flu, not your average flu season, right? And then he comes back now, and he's got even less policy. He's less connected. He's so in his own world that he can't focus. He's just an old man. It's completely over for the guy. And so he sends JD Vance out as his last fucking chance, a desperate, blind swing of a punch. And what does JD Vance do? He absolutely just buckles at the knees and makes it worse.
Yup. Truly hilarious. I mean, again, it's not funny. It's actually really dark. We talked about that on Circle Jerk. Like it's funny in a sense, the eating the dogs, the eating the cats thing, but it's also really, really horrifying. I mean, specifically for the Haitian population, I can't imagine. Like I said, I literally just I can't conceive of what that would feel like. But as this person on Twitter says, really cannot overstate how scary it is that a sitting U.S. senator is stirring up a pogrom against 20,000 black people he is supposed to represent in a bid to be VP. And in case you guys haven't seen this, I wanted to quickly play this too, because again, we're not being hyperbolic, you guys. This is genuinely just straight up Hitler rhetoric.
Yeah.
And illegal Haitians, and he came in, illegal Haitian migrants taking over a beautiful place. It was so beautiful. Springfield, Ohio. I was there. I campaigned there a while ago. Springfield, it was so beautiful. Now it's just, what a place. Can you imagine you have this small little community, all of a sudden you have 20,000 illegals in your community. Nobody knows where they come from. I'm angry about young American girls being raped and sodomized and murdered by savage criminal aliens.
Oh my God. Guys, this is the thing. This is the thing. Listen to this, and then anybody who ever tells you that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are the same, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Okay? Do you guys not understand what's happening here? Do you guys not understand that guy, pogrom is the correct term. Okay, yep. He's literally creating a white nationalist fervor in this country in a way that we did not see at all in 20. Like, it is next level hatred. Going back to the most ancient racist tropes, guys, my stomach's hurting. I hadn't seen that thing. That is a new low. Yeah. The going after black men and calling them rapists like this. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I know that people will mention the illegal immigrant comment. Oh, they're sending their rapists, but this is a new level of low. This is like I am sick to my stomach. But I mean, we make light of it. We make jokes about it, as Gavin said, but it has to be impossible for this man to win the presidency again. We cannot do it, you guys. Yeah. It cannot fucking happen that this guy is allowed to be president again. It just can't. It can't fucking happen. Yeah,
we have to reject this bullshit as an American people. I think that we will. Luckily, I'm fairly confident that Trump has jumped the shark and that even your average American, even your average racist is potentially off-put by this level of bigotry. But yeah, it really is genuinely scary. It's genuinely crazy. And yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. As terrible as the Democrats are, there really is no comparison in this election cycle. The choice is obvious. This dude cannot be in charge of the country. He cannot be in charge of the discourse and setting the tone. And that stuff does matters. It matters if you're one of these freaking Haitian people living in Ohio. You're not going to tell me that, oh, who cares? It's just rhetoric, civility, politics. No, this is life or death for these people. And again, as just a cultural issue, yeah, I think most Americans want to live in a country that feels safe, that feels inclusive. And again, it goes without saying, but obviously there are no cases of Haitian people raping white girls in Springfield. The closest thing they have, the story that's been blown up and used to justify hatred towards Haitian migrants in Springfield, has nothing to do with sexual assault. It has nothing to do with violence. It's one car accident. One Haitian dude who was driving without a license ran into a school bus. It resulted in the death of one American kid. And that is really sad. That happens all the time across this country. There's tons of American-born drivers who are terrible on the road, that drive drunk, that are shitty. This one Haitian guy made a mistake that tragically resulted in a kid dying and a couple other kids getting hurt, which again is terrible. But that's not the same as people getting raped. There's no sodomy. This is all just insane Nazi rhetoric to inspire hate crimes.
Oh, it's laying the groundwork. He's basically begging for lynchings to begin in Ohio. I mean, guys, we're talking about a level of cruelty, a level of animosity, a level of fear that's being imposed on these people, guys. Again, I just think about being a kid in one of those elementary schools. You know, you think about it, Gavin and I, that was when we first started really paying attention to politics, 5th grade. Okay, you imagine you're in 5th grade. You're 10. How the fuck old are you? 10 years old, something like that. And you see that clip of a guy that might be president.
Yeah.
And he's saying that about you and your family, and you're worried about your dad. You're worried about your mom. You also know that black people get killed like fucking crazy in this country by the police, by the people that the only people that would protect you from these insane assholes, you can't call because they might kill you too.
Yep.
Imagine the paralysis. Imagine the anxiety. Imagine the fear.
Or deport you if you're not documented.
You can't, the stress, the constant stress that, and I mean, I'm thinking about the kids, but imagine being their parents now. Imagine now you have kids. Imagine now you're worried about your kids. You're worried about their psychology. You're worried about how they're going to develop. You brought them to America to be the melting pot that Gavin and I were talking about yesterday. And now what the fuck do you have? I mean, it's a disgrace to this country that Donald Trump is able to go up there and speak like that. It is a disgrace to the progress that we have made culturally. It has to be dealt with. It is unacceptable, guys. This is a new level. I mean, it's a new level of fervor. Okay, both of these guys going out there and stirring up a fucking just a lynching in the making, guys.
Yeah.
It's something horrible is going to happen.
So they can, in their attempt to get power. That's all it is, just for their own good. JD Vance throwing literally tens of thousands of people under the bus and directly into harm's way so that he maybe can be vice president, so that he then himself can get thrown under the bus by Trump 4 years later, just like Mike Pence did. Really? This is worth it for you, bro? You want to get in bed with one of the worst, most narcissistic, abusive people on the earth and then throw innocent Haitians under the bus, innocent migrants, much like your own wife's parents, under the bus so that you can have a nice office? Fuck you. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, God, what the fuck, man? I mean, and it's crazy too because it underscores we live in two Americas. You know what I mean? And obviously the elephant in the room is this is in response to having a black woman on the ballot. They know that that's their base and that the angriest of the Republican Party, they're going to be pissed about having a black woman be their president. And now they're stewing up all of this kind of insane racist bigotry in response to that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this seems worse than Obama, dude. Like, I remember when there was a bunch of really racist shit, obviously, that got said about Obama. But I don't think, I mean, John McCain would have never gone out there and given that speech. No. You know what I mean?
But again, there are a lot of really ignorant people out there. There's a lot of really desperate people out there. And again, if you're desperate and you're ignorant, that really, unfortunately, leads to that scapegoating. It makes the scapegoating a lot easier because if you're desperate but educated, and I'm not just talking about, going to college, but I just mean like having an understanding of the way the world works and knowing better than to blame your issues on immigrants, that kind of thing. If you're desperate and educated, then like I just said, you know better than to blame your issues on the immigrants. But if you're really desperate and there's no sign of anything getting better in your life and you can't get a job, and your debt keeps going up, like a lot of these poor white people in Springfield, right? And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of loudmouths spreading propaganda about how actually it's the immigrants' fault. Well, again, not that it justifies that, but it does explain it. And the mind of a desperate poor person is much more vulnerable to racist conspiracy theories than basically anyone else. It's desperate poor people and mentally ill people. Those are the most susceptible to vicious racism and conspiracy theories, because again, it's a psychological way to shift the blame away from yourself and away from the country that you think is supposed to take care of you onto an other. And that's how it works.